And we live.
You doing the intro beat?
Osmic on the beat.
Yo, what's up? This is the Base 187 and welcome to the Babbling podcast.
I'm DJ Fingaz.
Charlie Ecstasy.
And welcome to 2022, our first official podcast for the year.
It feels strange, no?
Feels strange getting back into the swing of things.
too.
But today we're kicking off the first podcast of the year with none other than one of South Africa's most visionary hip-hop entrepreneurs, MC, graffiti writer, event organizer, historian. We'd like to welcome none other than Osmic Menoe.
Hey, what's good? What's good? How you guys doing? How you guys feel?
A bit nervous, seeing that this is the first podcast of the year. We didn't do it for almost 3 months.
yeah.
3 months,
yeah.
and we have a big guest, so it's triple the nerves, you know.
Nah, that's cool, man. Me, I'm family, man. Me, I'm y'all's family, so it ain't no thing, man. It ain't no thing. Yeah, well, it's super hectic, very super sunny this side. But you know, in Joburg, we now have a Cape Town weather now. I don't know if you guys know, like, so it will be very hot, and it will be windy, and then it will start raining all in one day. So, yeah, that's how we're doing out here.
All 4 seasons in one day. So tell me, Osmic, I think most people know you for Back to the City Festival. How did that all come about?
The truth is, Back to the City, I was a child, probably in high school, right?
Yeah.
And I happened to I had this mixtape called Hell's Kitchen, and this mixtape took me all around. It took me around Joburg, around Durban, around Cape Town, and that's where I met quite a lot of other heads outside the province. And obviously during that time, the biggest things that were happening here was obviously there was the club, and obviously Cape Town had its own big scene. And in Cape Town, would always go because I was a writer. I was in a crew called Evil Mind and a crew called PCP at the time, and we would go to this thing called L Cup, right? And while I was at this LSO Cup, obviously there was also a meet doing all these amazing things, and there was everyone in Cape Town, all these like prominent dudes were doing all these amazing things, and I think that's where the spark or the influence started coming from. When you see the Hilderwood, when you see some of the projects that Emil does, when you see some of those workshops and all these things that Falco would do with the graffiti artists, when you see some of those workshops people like Azanian B-Boys would do, or Azanian Flip. So I think all those later on culminated to the spark of doing this festival, because at the time in Newtown I had a shop called Ritual Stores. There was a club. I had a radio show on YFM. I had a TV show, and I had quite a lot of interesting people around me.
Yeah.
So it was literally just made more sense to say, why don't we do something around Freedom Day? Because I've always felt that Freedom Day is the most important day in the country, because that's when, for the first time, we were all, in inverted commas, seen as equals. And if you think about the culture, hip-hop promotes social cohesion. So what better way to promote social cohesion during a day like that with a culture that I so love? And that's sort of how the festival comes about, because if you look at it, all the different elements in it, they're all connected to all these little things. Whether it's Alice Girl Cup, we would have graffiti under the bridge. There'll be the B-Boys, a dance competition.
Yeah.
There'll be MC battles, all those sort of things. So that's how it comes about.
Yeah, I was lucky. I was fortunate enough to to at least have visited the festival back in 2013, but damn, it's going on almost 10 years now, so I think it's long overdue. I think we will be eating you guys up in Josie this year, if it's still going ahead.
Of course.
At least for the museum launch.
Of course. Yeah, of course. It's definitely, we're attempting to, obviously looking at all these COVID regulations. Obviously, we've got over 20,000 people there, but we were hoping by that time they would have changed this 2,000 story. But we've been planning for the last 2 years on, a comeback. Obviously we did something online, which was very interesting at the time, but now I think it's go back to our original format. So we really can't wait,
Tell me, what inspired the museum, and how did you connect the two?
You see, with the museum, because I was doing the South African, obviously we had the South African Hip Hop Awards, we had the festival, we had all these, and at some point in time, I thought, I looked at what happened to Kwaito, I looked at what happened to South African bubblegum, I looked at what happened to jazz, and I thought to myself, in the next 40 years, 50 years, when either some of us are either dead or super old, and if you look at also a lot of our pioneers, they're now in their 50s now, and the newer generation don't know who these people are. If a new generation doesn't care about a squatter camp, why would they care about a jam, or why would they care about a Falco? Why would they care about a Khocha? You know what I mean? Yeah. And I thought to myself, it'd be such a cool thing if we created a space where we can preserve all these efforts, but not just only preserve and also protect it, and create also a space where we can also educate. Hence, I'm saying, for instance, today there's a masterclass. Last week there was a whole workshop, a production workshop, and these are things that we're starting to test as we're building the museum.
Cool, man.
Oh, wait. So, Cape Town's always first to start beef. I wouldn't always say first to start beef, but with the first Hip Hop Museum was based in Cape Town, but it had a very short lifespan, I think approximately 3 years. Were you able to, because there was a large archive of contributions, like we've given as Yieldwood and as Black Noise, we've given a large amount of items to the SA Hip Hop Museum. But were you able to recoup anything from the original museum?
Yeah, so what we've done is, I'll be coming down, for instance, next Saturday to come speak to some of the team there. So we've assembled what we're doing now is we're assembling different teams in the whole provinces, in different provinces. So, for instance, that side we've got, your Shamimas, your Easies, and also we've got a panel of advisors as well, where we'll be reaching out to people like an Emil, we'll be reaching out to people like a Falco, and, all these, Ramon, and all these people. And also even like Jamo, because I know he's got some very interesting, amazing stories. Yeah. So the idea is to meet up with everybody and say to them, look, there's this space happening, and the pure purpose of it is exactly what all these guys were trying to do with the museum that had started in Cape Town. You know what I mean? Is to protect, preserve these things and show next generations. So we're hoping some of the people that have these items will be able to come on board as we've started to collect, because you must remember we've been building the space for literally close to 4.5 years. Yeah. So and I'm sure those guys who did that museum can tell you the hardships and the tricky parts of it. And obviously with us, because we were trying to be very ambitious in the execution, from the way it is, from doing holograms and touch screens and all these things. There's a recording studio inside that, so it's taking quite a lot. So now we finally at a phase where now we're able to have put together these different individuals in the different provinces as research team. And during that is when we start collecting all these different items and, so forth and so on.
Okay, no, dope. Tell me, I think if I'm not mistaken, I saw like a lot of people when you guys did the launch recently with Department of Arts and Culture. There was some people saying, have we actually beat the Americans to launching the first hip hop museum? Because I know they broke ground in the Bronx.
Right now so remember, like in the States, a lot of their museums, which I've been to some of them, are pop-up museums, right?
Yeah.
So it's a museum that will pop up here, and then after 3 months, 2 months, it's somewhere else. So they don't have anything permanent. So the minute this is permanent, when we finally do the overall launch, and I mean,
Yeah.
remember in the Bronx, they only just got allocated a space, I think last year sometime,
Yeah.
for their hip hop museum, and they still like trying to break ground and conversation. And I mean, you've seen that team. It's quite a large team
Yeah.
of very very senior people as well. So our thing is we young, we've got the energy, and you can see the way we move is that we move quick. So by the time
Yeah.
we do the September launch, that will be sort of that first permanent one, which is going to be an interesting thing, because also we've extended invites to like Kool Herc, and some of the founders to say,
Yeah.
come help us cut this ribbon. I mean, imagine, some of the Cape Town elders with some of the Bronx, New York elders, and,
Yeah.
getting together there
Zulu
to
Nation,
cut this
everybody.
ribbon. I think it's going to be a big milestone, because we must also never forget that South Africa has had a big impact in hip hop globally, in terms of, if you
Yeah.
look at the whole story about, the Zulu Nation. There's a reason why, those guys call themselves Zulu Nation.
Yeah.
Africa Bambaataa, there's a reason why, he could have named himself after a Japanese tribe.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But it was after the Zulu Nation. You know what I mean? So I think I think we are just about to create another milestone.
Oh, wait. And I think like one of the things you just said now pertaining to moving fast and moving quick, I think that's largely assigned to Ritual Media Group. Now, for Back to the City Festival, your posters and everything, your marketing has always been on point and groundbreaking. I think your last series, I think the last 3 years, the imagery was like so dope.
So,
But now, what made you form Ritual Media Group after already having Ritual Media, the stores?
I couldn't catch that. Please repeat
I
that
said,
again.
what made you form Ritual Media Group? Because that's basically the driving force behind all your marketing for all your brands.
Yeah. So look, Ritual Media Group, that company, which obviously I'm the founder of the company, literally starts from when I was in Standard 7. Myself and a couple of friends got together and started a hip hop magazine, which at the time was sort of the first hip hop magazine in Joburg. But once again, the influence came from seeing the juice. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? Because Cape Town have always been obviously in the forefront, because one, I think the thinking was always way forward than everyone else, you know. And I think with Cape Town that it was always very communal. So it was very community. It was always about reaching out, versus obviously a Joburg, which was more individual, was always more about I.
Yeah.
And when we did this magazine, was literally once again an influence of seeing what Cape Town had done, and we said, listen here, look what these people are doing. They're documenting the b-boys, they're documenting this. And we then sparked that magazine when I was in that Standard 7. I can't remember what year that is. And the magazine was called Ritual Magazine,
All right.
And years later, obviously, when everyone disbanded, I still kept the name Ritual, because I just loved how it represented about how, the culture, to me, it's a ritual.
Yeah.
It's not a fad. I walk hip hop, I speak hip hop. Any boardroom or any government room I walk in as myself, as this person who does hip hop. Like, I don't step in there and then change my tone or change my, you know what I mean? I
Yeah.
walk in there as I am, you know what I mean? And hence that name, Ritual Media Group. So that's just sort of where that name comes from. And it's just became a little easier when sparking all these different sort of exercises to just umbrella them under this Ritual Media Group. But as you've seen, a lot of them are bigger than that name, Ritual, like a Back to the City. I'm sure, when it's on TV, no one cares that it's done by Ritual Media Group. When the
Yeah.
South African Hip Hop Awards play, everyone says that's the South African Hip Hop Awards. It's not a Ritual Media Group thing, but
Yeah.
that's sort of why.
Jack, while doing some research on for for today's podcast. I checked out the interview you did in December. I think it was the Fifth Element, and you beautifully described the history of how hip hop came to Cape Town and how you guys saw it, but it was very traditional, especially the graffiti. And you guys thought, hey, let's try our own spin. Beautifully described. Only one question. You said the likes of Amu was the first guys to try to do the vernac, and they inspired a lot of people to do. Just one quick question. When you heard POC do it in their vernac, were you guys inspired by it? Like I was in Cape Town. How did Joburg perceive that?
You know, it's interesting you bring that up, right? Because it's funny. I was having a meeting the other day with some of the as I tend to call them, the kings of Northwest. So this would be, there was Dukes, there was Momolimi, there was Lemonka, and we were talking about the importance of Bob TV at some point, because obviously now we need to start understanding who's who was that guy who was doing the programming at Bob TV, because whoever that guy was single-handedly influenced Joburg hip-hop, because Joburg hip-hop at the time, a lot of us were what the East Coast underground hip-hop. And that is the reason why, if you looked at the time, Joburg hip-hop, a lot of us were very Wu-Tang, very Nas, very like hardcore, big words, and you know, versus if you look at Cape Town, you guys got that hip-hop in a very, very natural way, where people like K Jammo, who would be a pen pal with someone overseas, who would send a cassette tape, that literally had like the culture as raw and as refined as it was. But we were getting the culture of TV, you know what I mean? Of a music video, of a Source magazine. So we were trying to really mimic all these things we were seeing, while the Cape Town generation were literally talking to some of these people. You know, I mean, Emil was connecting already with Zulu Nation back then. But in Joburg, there was no one trying to do something like that. Everyone here was about, my rhymes are dope, or my beats are dope, or you know. So hence, when POC was already doing it, yes, they were already doing it way back then, but in Joburg, it didn't really do much, because we never really connected. We always said, yo, that's POC, yo, those are the gods. But the influence was not as such, where now we're like, oh, so we must also rhyme in our language. No. But I think with Amo, what worked out for Amo, because remember Amo, he's also one of those people that picked up hip hop literally from its birthplace, because he was a kid and he'd go to overseas and he'd see people b-boying, he'd see ciphers, and he would start also connecting with POC, right? Meaning he's starting to get the source, you know, the source of the inspiration. And I think in that form, he was one of the first people in Joburg to sort of then make it comfortable, because you must remember, when he also started doing that, we used to say he's whack, because in Joburg, also, he was not liked at that time, funny enough, right? Because when you started rapping in vernac, he was like, you whack, you know? But, you know, he, like I say, he had that influence already from the source to say, nah, dude, this is how it's gotta be, this is how you need to do it.
Nah, cool, man, cool. That makes a lot of sense to me. You wanna go?
Yeah, just my phone froze there. So, we're setting up all these events, and people not necessarily, like you said, like with the likes of Amu, like when you're breaking in something new, when you're introducing something new, how long did it take before the SA Hip Hop Awards gained traction and, how would I say now, some form of credibility in the scene? The likewise with Back to the City Festival, how long did it take you before it like became profitable? And now with the museum as well, I'm sure there was a lot of backlash or naysayers saying that, nah, it can't be done, it has to be here or X, Y, Z. But it's like, there's a saying that says like, dogs don't bark at parked cars, they only bark at moving cars.
Sure.
So like, How do you
Sure.
keep yourself positive and motivated to push through despite all the negative vibes?
Um, look, I think I'm at a point where I'm very numb to the negative vibes because what I've understood is that sometimes when people either talk strange things about me or they say whatever they are, it's sometimes out of frustration. And I've learned to understand that because of all these things I've been doing from a long time. Because remember, I had like a big radio show, I had a big TV show, I had the store, which became very popular. So there was always someone who would say something negative or was unhappy about something. But until you sit down with the person and have a chat with them, then the understanding is they're like, oh, now I get it, and the person apologizes. But if I was the guy now who, when you say something negative, and I'm now also saying something negative without making you understand either my perspective or why things are,
Yeah.
then it would be very silly because, I've learned to understand the position that I'm playing, and also it is frustrating because I'm dealing with like literally millions and millions of millions, and
Yeah.
half the time these are millions going into something that I sometimes don't even benefit, like the museum. I've put up about 4 million rand for my own pocket, and everyone says I'm crazy. Everyone says something is wrong with me. I'm having a mental breakdown. Why would I do a museum? Blah blah blah. And I said to everybody, look, it doesn't make sense right now, but it's going to make sense in 20 years and 15 years when we're all in our 70s and 80s. It
Yeah.
will only then it will make sense. It's very risky, yes, but now I'm very fortunate, obviously, because as you well as you know that right after we launched the first phase, the museum got destroyed,
Yeah.
and then we were able to rebuild. But obviously, that also hampered a little bit of my confidence because rebuilding meant now using more money from my pocket.
Yeah.
But now we obviously were lucky enough for for government to say how do we assist, and yes, it's not the total monies we're looking for,
Yeah.
but we're very appreciative of the effort to say, we'll help you, because remember, it took this conversation with them, for instance, took 5 years,
Yeah.
5 years of getting rejection and rejection. I have 6 rejection letters from them,
Yeah.
you know. So at some point, someone in there saw the vision and understood why. Because you'll see once this thing space is open, you're gonna start seeing a Kwaito museum, you start seeing TV museums, you start seeing all these museums, because
Yeah.
I think that's going to bring confidence in everyone to say, if these hip hop kids did it, so can we.
Exactly.
So basically, you're planting a tree now. Hopefully, you will enjoy the shade, but the next generation will definitely enjoy the shade, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, I have a question.
But it's yeah,
Sorry, I have a question. With the
yes, sir.
direction which hip hop is going now, it's constantly evolving. I just wanted to know, from your perspective, do you think it's moving in a better direction, or do you like the direction hip hop is going now, like with today's cats?
I love the direction the culture is going. I love where it's at right now, the culture, and I'll tell you why. Because it's at its healthiest it's ever been, if you
Yeah.
think about it. Because people are able to sustain themselves, right? Because that's the most important. And then I never envisioned, even though that's what we were working towards. About 15 years ago, myself and another guy called Mizi started this thing called the hip hop economy, where, because I was on TV and I was on radio, he was the editor of Hype magazine. We started doing this thing. How do we start using this word more and more in our shows? How do we have these conversations about a hip hop economy? Basically, a spot where now a graffiti artist can sustain himself, a b-boy can sustain himself. But you look at now, a lot of brands are messing with hip hop, TV's messing with hip hop, government is starting to mess with hip hop. Uh, uh, Government TV, SABC. At some
Yeah.
point, SABC had 3 hip hop shows. They had an MC battle show, a DJ show, a
Yeah.
dance show. On Metro FM had 4 hip hop shows on a Saturday. This is coming from a time when no one would play hip hop, when everyone would see us as funny people. But look how the culture is moving now. Look what people like Falco are doing with some of these brands. I mean, every time I see Falco in Joburg, he's doing something interesting with a brand, and he's doing it in his own terms. You know what I mean? It's not, they're not saying to him, paint our name. No, he's painting what he wants to paint. You know what I mean? You look at people like Rusty, the expansion with his tattoo store, for instance. You look at
he's dope.
someone
It's
like Nick.
I need to book a slot with
Look
Rusty.
what Nick has done with So do you see when I say hip hop? Because I think a lot of times the conversation, people tend to say hip hop and then somehow refer to rap, and that's just one section. If these rappers are doing all these, and we also speaking about rappers in the States specifically, but look at some of our rappers here. Look at what Casper's doing. Inspirational. Look at some of the things AK is doing. Look at some of the things youngsters doing. These are very aspirational things that also bring confidence to the next generation, because if they did it and did it at that level, so can anyone.
Oh yeah, I think we
Can y'all
lost.
hear me?
Oh, yes, man.
Over there.
Also,
I'm back. I'm back.
On that note, do you have any advice for the younger generation, just starting out? I'm not just talking about rappers. I'm talking about DJs. I'm talking about graffiti artists. Dancers.
Yeah.
Do you have any advice for them on how we can how they can live from hip hop?
Yeah. So I think the one thing that has never been emphasized in the culture, and I think it's one of the things that to find from a very young age, research and upskilling. The only reason I was able to move in these places I've moved in is I was able to upscale myself in whatever education, because I just outside of hip hop, I edit, I shoot, I design, I can do sites, I can do so much more. There's so much skill that I have that enables me to do all these other things. And I'm sitting here I've got like 2 diplomas. So I did not also like drop out of school. I went and I did my schooling and upskilled myself more. And then I took all those skills and then I put them into my hip hop, and that's how whatever I do became a little bit better, or went a little bit further, because those skills were necessary. So I think whether you're a graffiti artist or you're a b-boy, it's important to research. It's important to educate yourself. And I think it's also very important to never forget the skill of sharing, because it's another thing that, when people pop, they tend to forget to share, right? Which is a very dangerous thing. And I think that's what the culture taught us from back then. It was about sharing.
Okay, yeah. Let me just restart this.
Yeah. But do you want to say anything about a couple of things, Fingaz?
Yeah, so what have you guys been doing since we last...
No, we're going to restart the stream, aren't we?
Same link.
Same link.
Okay.
No, but we're still live.
Yeah.
But I'm saying, what do you guys do in the meantime? Someone's not chat in the meantime or so.
Yeah, we can chat along.
They can chat, yeah.
Yeah, like for me, in this, the reason why I love this interview is because I didn't want to tell myself the same, what he's gonna say, man. I wanted to hear it from him because I feel inspired by him. This man, you know what this man have done already, man, bro.
No, definitely. Do you know what? My first question, what I'm gonna ask next is, since as 'n youngster het nou he cracked the code, wat nog nie iemand in hip-hop Kaap gekrak het, man. Hopefully there's a they grooming somebody else seeing that the code is cracked. Hopefully they will get in somebody else, man. So my question is, how do we
join the stream?
How do we I'm gonna now ask him if he's working on the next Osmic, man, to take over. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I'm thinking the same thing, dude. Because what did I want to say now? Let me just join you with the video. set up. Just is it on?
He's busy joining now.
Okay, cool. Let me just turn the camera.
Zo, kan er warm, joh.
Are we back?
Yeah, we're back.
We're back. We're back. We're back.
We're back. We're back again.
Oh.
Yeah, I was just telling them now. Okay. Are you still? Still?
Yeah, Osmic is still speaking.
Okay, go for it.
Say that again.
Sorry, I got told to get in Osmic. Let me just switch cameras. There we go. That's better.
Yeah, but now you
Nah,
know.
it's still.
Sideways.
Still sideways.
Break your
I
neck.
could do this.
There we go.
Out of it.
Nah, it's fine. Just leave it. That's
Do
fine.
that.
So you were saying?
There we go. There we go.
There we go. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, I was talking. Yeah. Is that fine?
That's fine now.
Yeah.
Go for it.
Oh, I can go. I can talk.
Yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh, okay, go ahead. So I was just saying, man, you know, the teachings of once again, I mean, I spoke about upskilling and all of that. I think it's also important to remember that Ubuntu, because I think we don't have a lot of that anymore, where when a person makes it out, they don't reach out, you know, to try grab two more to bring them up.
Yeah.
And I think these are things that if guys can start practicing, will take us quite far. Because you look in the States, man, in the States, whether it's planned or they're doing it naturally, you can tell that's how they're moving. A Rick Ross will bring into the game 2-4 more artists. Those 2-4 more artists will bring 2 more artists.
Yeah.
You know, you look at a Jay-Z, he'll bring, you know, these 4-5 artists that become big. They bring others. You know what I mean? You look at the clothing label dudes, they will collab with a graffiti artist, and they will go big, you know. So I think it's time we bring back that thinking that when you are a AKA, you need to bring up like 4 more people. When you are
Yeah.
you need to bring up 3 more people and, you know, tell them those teachings like, yo, you need to also bring up 2, 3, 4 more people. Because the more of us that are there, the more this thing lasts longer, and the more all of us get to are able to sustain ourselves.
Is there Osmic in the wings? Future Osmic? A baby Osmic? Like not
A successor.
a successor, yeah, not like a baby.
Not a baby.
Not your baby.
Look, I hope so, but you know, the problem is obviously doing all these things. You know, you also don't get time for that, because my focus is if I can do this, if we can open this museum, and if this museum can literally sustain itself, because everybody's looking at this thing to say we want, you know, there's 40% who like wants to see it fail. There's 20% who don't believe, and there's 40% who believe in the possibility.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I think for me, it's a challenge. I see it as nothing but a challenge. I've already put up too much cash for this thing to go sideways and too far in. You know, so I just need the space to go on, and you know, and then we'll see, man. We'll see if there'll be a young one.
I agree with you 100% when you said like you need to bring up like a couple of artists with you. For example, with the students that I'm dealing with from Lavendale, like I know I didn't make it yet, but I mean I'm at least working with them so that we can. I'm organizing them gigs. I record them.
Mastering editor.
Yeah, I do the mastering, editing. Shot a music video for them just so that they can understand. Look at this is the process, and then at the end of the day, they can do it themselves. Almost like a couple of successes. You know what I mean?
No, but we're lucky. We're actually lucky that we do that for a living.
Yeah, as well.
You know what I'm saying? With Hilda, with the work that we do.
But you see, just to jump on there, you see what you're doing. The point of the museum existing is to assist in such things.
Yeah.
because we're open to collab to say, because remember, this is not an Osmic museum. I keep telling
Yeah.
people, this is not a Joburg museum. This is the South African Hip Hop Museum
Yeah.
for everybody. So if people have ideas and concept or working on things and they're like, yo, we want to collabo, let's do it. If people say, yo, we're trying to use the museum to get this funding, we need to da 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 da. Yo, let's do it. You know,
Yeah.
as long as once again, it's it's in the ethos of what this whole project is about. You know what I mean? So, I mean, you've seen some of the holiday programs we started. I mean, Vokes did a holiday program in Cape Town under
Yeah.
the banner of collaborating with the museum, with his foundation. So this is what we open to. So when you guys do such things, you easily could say, yo, this is what we're doing. You know, how do we do X, Y, and Z? How do we collaborate on this? You know what I mean? You know, can you, you know, can we go and ask for funding together, or what resources do you have, or whatever the story is, you
Yeah.
know? Because the only way this is going to work is if we all cross collaborate. That's it.
Yeah. I agree with you 100%. Also, one more question. Is Back to the City happening this year?
Yes, it is. We will announce the date. We've already started speaking to some of the internationals because I think one thing that I need to say, because you know, you're gonna start seeing the logo. So we've created something called the South African Hip Hop Month, which will be from in September. So going forward from September now till whenever, there'll be something called the South African Hip Hop Month, which will be September, which is our Heritage Day. So once again, idea is how do we all collaborate? You know, if you're doing programs around the month of September, it falls into this banner. If someone in Durban, if someone in Mpumalanga and Limpopo, we collaborate, you know,
Yeah.
and actually show how big this thing is. So there's all these excitements coming. So the idea is also to do the festival somewhere around that time.
Okay, dope.
Okay, cool. Okay.
Sure.
I remember the talk. I was at the Hip Hop Indaba when you were giving a talk. When you said
2019.
when with the lecture series where you said when rappers or people go approach people for funding, you can't be dressed like a homeless person, and you need to present yourself properly in order to get funding or what was it called, or to get like sponsorships. So in the museum will there be space where like artists can get the information, not information, but get learn how to be more business minded, in a sense where they can approach people for sponsorships and stuff like that.
So as we speak right now in the museum, there's a master class
Okay.
from a guy called Damani Nkosi, who's from Inglewood, California.
Yeah.
For those that don't know him, you can just Google Damani Nkosi. You'll understand what a big deal he is. So there's master class where he's literally talking about that, you know, how to hustle, how to move, because he's been able to do crazy things in France, in China, and all over the place. So it's built for that. It's built to educate. It's built to
Yes.
empower. You know, so all those things will be happening into
Okay,
the space.
thanks.
Okay, cool. Just like talking about the guy I just mentioned now, doing things in China, etc. I've never quite seen anything happening with this whole BRICS partnership that we have with all these countries, but I'm sure if there should be a route that we could tap into the likes of what Brazil has to offer, what Russia,
Yeah.
India,
I've actually done-
China, etc.
Yeah, I've actually tapped into it before, and going forward, there's a lot of other things we'll be tapping. We've had graffiti artists coming from Brazil
Yeah.
back to the city doing murals and collaborating with peeps here. And once again, I think these are things that people have not upskilled or researched or tried to find ways to use them, because there's no reason why you cannot have a tour in those BRICS countries,
Yeah.
whether as a dancer, whether as a graffiti artist, and you cross collaborate, and the government can fund that stuff, you know. because we have a partnership with all these places. There's no reason why you can't drop your album in Russia. Or, there's no reason why you can't sell your merch in China or whatever the story is. You know what I mean? Because such things exist. So I think it is also important, once again, for people to research and learn and say, how do I take my art form globally? And I think things like opportunities like BRICS, that's exactly what they bring.
Oh, wait, because that's definitely like an avenue. I think we can actually talk about this further offline. But I think there's a lot of possibilities, and I think a lot of people are just sitting with blinkers on and just expecting things to happen here within SA, and not thinking out of the box, like thinking internationally.
Osmic, your camera is off.
Oh snap! I think it's my
Alexander
my
Graham
screen
Bell.
just froze. My screen just froze. Give me a second. But yeah, just say the question again.
I was saying that there's a lot of possibilities, something we can possibly take offline, but I think a lot of people in South Africa are just focused on the here now instead of thinking outside the box, thinking internationally, globally, all the possibilities that are there. And I mean, all it takes is to ask.
And all it takes is to ask, but it also takes to just research, once again, because if you research, you'll start seeing that there's a fund. There's, for instance, Department of Arts and Culture and the National Arts Council have something called Touring Ventures. And Touring Ventures is where they fund you. So all you literally need is a letter of being invited to a place where they invite you to, let's say, China or America or whatever the place is, and they will fund for it. They'll fund it. So I think it's really important, and with people's while to actually and look into those things, whether it's a corporate, whether it's government. Get to understand. Look at other festivals around the world. How do you get yourself to that festival? Maybe you send them your profile. All these things. So I think it is super important, and I think shows like these are important because that's also how one gets to disseminate information.
No, for sure.
Yeah, true.
No, thanks for that knowledge drop.
I think I'm looking forward to meeting you in person, September.
September, yeah. No, for sure. The whole team will be down in Josie.
I'm coming down I'm coming down next week. Hopefully, I'll be down there because I just wanna because we're busy. There's interviews happening. Some of the older generations being interviewed about what happened, who was who, and all of that. So I thought, look, man, maybe next week on a Saturday and Sunday I could, pop in and come and work, and I'm gonna bring my camera down and come shoot, join the team that side, Shamima and all these peeps, come down with Vokes,
If you have a moment, we can maybe have a
down there, and I'm keen to.
No, we can definitely break bread over here at the podcast studio.
You can have a braai or something if you have time.
Smoke some meat. That's our forte. Me and Nantal are heavy into smoking.
Not
420 smoking.
Meat smoking, like chicken and sausage and stuff. That's meat smoking.
I'm actually going through with Tanzil tomorrow to one of the sessions, the recording sessions, just to check it out.
Oh, that's hot. That's hot. Yo, man, you just tell me jump and I ask how high. Like I'm here to serve. You just say jump, I say how high. So I'll be down there. If you think there's an activity, I'm there.
Then let's break bread next week, live in person.
Yeah,
and let's hustle, let's move. But thanks for availing yourself for us today, and dropping the knowledge. And I think a lot of people need to hear this.
I highly appreciate you guys, man. Peace and love. I'm
much love, bro.
Next week, right? Peace.
Short man, see you.
Right.
Yes, that's us from the Babbling.
No, alsof jy sommer by te sê, nee. Liewe rule, you guys need to wear more colorful clothing during the podcast, no? Jy kan nie so bruin hier aankom hier nie. Just swat him.
Yeah.
That's it, bless you.
But yeah, that's from us, the
Yeah.
Babbling Heads.
That's it.
I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. En die man is een van die grootste mannen in hip-hop. So,
There we go.
daar is die knowledge. Dat is die knowledge wat die man drop. Hopefully kan ons interview samen privately ook slaat, wanneer hij afkomt.
And maybe somebody else is Samima misschien samen was
Yeah,
whatever.
Samima
Zoiets
kan
man.
samen was
These must 2 seats, you know what I'm saying?
Ah, well.
I'm just saying whoever is available man.
Ik ga je later vertellen. Away from the Babbling Heads, we out.
Okay,
Peace.
cool, peace.
Charlie X to C.
Ta-ta-ta-ta.
DJ Fingaz. Ik weet eens meer hoe mijn ouder dat doen. Lights off man.